All right, welcome. My friend Anton has signed up to take this journey with me, what we call the Camel Care Blue Zone community program. And I want to share some information with Anton, and for the benefit of the group, you may want to stay to end of this recording and watch it because it will benefit you. Anton, my friend, welcome. Anton Roder, is it?
Uh, Reader.
Ritter.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good.
Ritter, yeah. So what's the background? What's your ancestry, if you will?
My I'm a bit of a mongrel. But where I get the name from is grandfather. My grandfather's parents moved to South Africa just before the Second World War, so he wouldn't get drafted. So they moved to South Africa, and so that's where I get my surname from, because obviously German. And so then he married an Afrikaans woman in South Africa, so got a bit of Afrikaans there, and that's on my dad's side. On my mom's side, her parents were from Wales, so they're both second generation South Africans. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
Oh, welcome, my friend. I'm really excited for this journey. And you live in Canada
Yeah,
for how many
Manitoba,
years
and
now?
well, just south of Winkler. So literally, on my cell phone keeps on telling me that I'm crossing the border to the States. So just north of the border.
Oh, yes. So, how long have you lived there, Anton?
Well, in this area since 2008.
2008. So,
Yeah,
this takes us back. Now, you're a veteran, you're a Canadian, you already have a beautiful family. I saw your pictures.
yeah,
You have a son and two daughters, I believe.
yes. And then
And what
I I co-parent with my ex actually. That's why we bought this property together, and so I'm kind of parenting her two youngest as well. So it's always a tricky situation to explain to people, but after a while you don't think of them as her kids anymore. They just kind of our kids.
I I share the sensation. I also have two children. One of them is 21, just turned 21, and the other one is 12-year-old boy. So right now, handful. Just trying to make sure that I spend enough time to, impart some principles that we have brought with us, and hopefully will share and benefit them.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the program. I am very proud of you. You took action. Tomorrow morning means Saturday morning. I have one of my mentors. Again, you may know a little bit of the journey, but this is not about me. This is not about Arif. This is all about Anton. And I just wanted to go through some discovery with you.
Okay.
First and foremost, I wanted to share the screen so you can see my screen again. The goal is to teach you this program and introduce you to some products, some services to help you get started even on a part-time basis at the end of this program on making some additional income, because we all need multiple sources of income to be able to retire with peace of mind, if you will.
Yeah.
The journey of an immigrant is a difficult one, especially you were born in another country. You pick up your bag, you pick up yourself, your family, whatever you've got, you come somewhere else and you start right from the bottom. Where did you start, Anton?
How do you mean?
Where did you start in Canada?
So when I left South Africa, I was studying to become a lawyer,
Oh, yes.
and I actually managed to speak to the law society here, and they recognized my. Um, I would still have to do a bridging year, but basically, I ended up working for a law firm here, um,
Oh,
and I was about 3 or 4 years into my law degree, because in South Africa you can do it by correspondence. And then once I was done, I would have had to do another year, like as a bridging year to Canada. But yeah, so but then that didn't work out. Had a bit of a fallout with my principal, the lawyer I worked for, because she said that she's changing my work, the terms of my work, that I only work 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week, and yeah, so that wouldn't work for me. But I couldn't work somewhere else as well because it was a closed work permit. So then the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program had been helping me, and so they said I should just get another job offer and see if I can find another job, and they would expedite it for me. So I I ended up working at a furnace of all places, like a foundry. Yeah,
Nice one. Well, I've had odd jobs. I've had so many odd jobs. No
that
coincidence.
was yeah, that was a big change for me because I made jewelry before, but working in a foundry is not the same. So that was my first. Yeah, I uh, I worked in the cleaning room to begin with. I worked there for about ended up working there about 5 years. I worked in the cleaning room where you're just like grinding parts and getting them ready for painting and stuff. But then I worked in the pouring room where they actually pour the metal, and I lost like 30 or 40 pounds in 2 weeks. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a good
Furnace. It
experience. I
must have
enjoyed
been
it.
hot there.
Yes, very hot. Yeah.
So
Um,
let me ask you a question. You so enthusiastically signed up for this program. What's your expectations of this program as an immigrant, first of all, as a Canadian, because we reach out across the world and very few Canadians are familiar with coaching programs such as this one.
mhm.
What's your expectation, Anton?
Well, my expectation is primarily to. Um, I was a bit impacted by our conversation, um, and so you seemed like you were a person that wanted to make a difference in the world. And uh, despite what my personal ambitions are in terms of finances and improving myself and so on, the older I get, the more I realize that there's no real point to just improving yourself. You have to make the world a better place too.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, absolutely. I appreciate that sensation you just described means that's what other people are realizing. Also, I hope that's what they're feeling. Also, this is a program where we build communities, my friend. Communities are built with people. That is how, and that is why I reach out to people across the world and help them start to think a little bit differently. Again, as you mentioned, the whole goal of this program is to have an impact as a result of this conversations that we're going to have over the next few weeks together. So let me go through a couple of questions. We're gonna go through a wheel of life because that's how I learned this program makes the best impact when we share this wheel of life. Now, are you looking at the screen, Anton?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay, so if I was, one zero was right at the center of this circle, and 10 was at the outskirt. I had to complete this wheel of basically life. If I were to ask you emotionally, how do you feel on a degree of 0 to 10? 10 being very emotional and tuned with yourself and with your children, with your life. How do you feel in each of these areas? Would you like to walk me through this?
Okay.
If
Um,
you need any questions or comments, ask me and I will be listening and tentatively learning from you. I'll be taking notes.
okay. So emotional. That's kind of a hard one for me because I'm a very unemotional person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not that I don't feel emotions. I'm just good at controlling them. So I would say probably not terrible at that. I would say probably around a 6.
Right. Health and wellness.
Health.
Is,
I think I'm doing pretty well there as well. I work part time at a dairy, so that keeps me from becoming a complete couch potato. And I live on a like a small acreage, so do a lot of work there. So probably I'd say around a 7 on health. I mean, you can definitely improve, lose some weight, and do some
I will be
strength training
sending
and
you
so on.
this document, and I want you to put a number beside each of this. Print out
Okay.
this very important page and put a number as of today or next time. Tomorrow morning, actually, we're meeting, as you know, with our mentor. But I want you to put a number to it and then connect all of the numbers. And
And
you
then
will see basically how do we love life applies to yourself. As I realized in 2022, I was in Iran, just to brief you on the story, and my mentor, the person who taught me this course, was in England.
mhm.
I had just experienced COVID-19, and my father had just, gotten the news that he had 90 days to live. So emotionally, I was devastated. I was not in a place to, uh, you know, I needed some help. I needed a friend to talk to, if you will. That's about a part of emotion that I experience. Now your emotions are different. If you're talked about it generally about how you're in, you really are not in, you don't care too much about what happens on the outside. You're more on the inside. You're in control.
Yeah.
Health and wellness. How do you feel about your health? Let's say from 0 1 to 10. How do you feel your health is right now?
I think for health, I could say about a 7. I think.
So there's some areas to be improved there, and then we go
Oh
into,
yeah.
again, partnership is not just about, let's say, personal partnership. It's about building a community. It's about being part of a community. Are you part of any organization, community, or family relationship right now? Not to be personal, but just share what you can.
Um, well, I uh, I work with a group called World Financial Group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we do. They approached me initially. I'd spoken to one of the agents just about getting help with stu- some financial stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then they told me, oh, I could do some work with them for, additional income and so on. And I kind of thought it was an interesting idea, but I never really followed through on it. And then I had a follow-up conversation with the lady, I deal with after that, and she explained that they have a very comprehensive financial literacy uh, program that they teach people. And then I was like, "Wow, you should have told me this from the beginning because there's two things that are important for me, and the first is that I don't like seeing people taken advantage of, and I realized early on that most people get taken advantage of through their finances because they don't they don't know enough about their finances to make good decisions. So I joined up with them, and so now I help them do teach people about finances and how to make good decisions and arranging their finances and stuff. So yeah, so I'm pretty uh, busy there. Like I'm going to a conference in Sacramento in July.
Oh, yes, Sacramento.
So
It's a financial services company. You have a license for insurance, or which?
yeah, I'm a life licensed. Yes, so life
Very
insurance,
good.
uh, segregated funds, that kind of stuff. I just can't do um, like uh, like regular funds. You need a mutual fund license for that.
So that's one thing that you're doing on the side. And as you probably know, that I spent part of my years at FedEx, and at the same time, I got my licenses in financial services. It's a great place to learn about money, but also caution you to apply the principles you learn in those courses to your own lives and the lives of. So we have a portion of our company that deals with money and finance, and we have companies that we work them to get basically on track. Anybody who signs up with us who is not educated about money. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I know a little bit more about Anton and your talents.
And then another thing I'm busy with is real estate. I'm busy closing on. I had a property here in Winkler, and so I sold that in February, and I have an offer on two properties in Winnipeg that I'm buying. Because it's the best option I could see for long term wealth, and also leaving
Yes,
something for my children. Because a lot of
you.
people, they focus on themselves and building their retirement and being well off when they retire, but they don't give that much thought into how do you help your children now, besides
Yes.
getting them a good education or whatever. So my plan is to get more into real estate, also that I can spend more time because I spend a lot of time just working now, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't leave me that much time to pursue things that I would like to do. So I'm hoping that with if I do better with the real estate, then I will free up some of my time. And then also, I want to be able to give my kids a head start in life. Get them their first car or get them their first house, maybe. Make sure that they don't go into student debt. Because you know, if finances has taught me anything, it's that everyone thinks, oh, it's not such a big deal if your kids have to pay off their student debt or they have to take out a loan to buy their first car and so on. But those first years of your life is when it's the easiest to set yourself up for success in the future.
Well, you mentioned a few things, and one of them was real estate that you brought to my attention, which is you cannot go wrong with real estate. And you
Yeah,
talked about also how people trying to penny save their way to retirement. That's not possible any longer.
no,
Average Canadian cannot pay off one house until retirement, let alone have an investment basically property. So you're in the right direction. All we're gonna do is focus your energy into the areas that are most productive, but you can never go wrong with real estate. All of the biggest people who have built financial success, and you can hear it tomorrow morning from Rob probably, it's in real estate. The more you
yes,
know about it, the better. It never runs out of style.
yep.
Wow, what a great conversation, Anton. I'm really, we're already ahead of time because you said we're going from partnerships that you're building through your financial partnerships and also real estate now to vocation. And I think you already described what's your ideal job, my friend. Tell me, what would you like to do? What would you get up in the morning without an alarm clock?
Okay, this is going to sound very strange, but I love seeing people fix things, and I am very into real estate. So my dream job would be to restore all buildings.
That's
And I mean,
That's
not
just
just,
amazing to be so clear about it. You actually are very clear about it. You love
yeah,
helping people fix things.
yeah, and not just, I'm not talking like just like, you know, like a doing a flip, like fixing a regular house or whatever. What I would really love to do one day if I had kind of unlimited money is to fix like historical buildings. Like, I mean, so
Wow.
often I see, people are passionate about history, and then you have people touring ruins, and then I'm thinking to myself, how come we never fix old buildings? And then when I started doing research, there's lots of buildings like that could be restored, but most governments don't have the funds to do it.
My Canadian teacher again, Brian Tracy, his name is, and I recommend everybody Google him, search him. Brian Tracy basically was just like one of like me and you. He was searching and he was searching it, from fixing things on his ship to going to Africa, going all over the world. And ultimately comes back to acquiring the knowledge to fix things and fix people, which part of it is basically fixing their mental, physical health, and financial health, and the things they're broken. Like there's so much history that itself is 50,000 ways of making money, Brian Tracy says, in North America. Again, fixing items that are historic is another one. Never crossed my mind, but you just brought it to life. Thank you. Let's talk about the money. Anton, I came to Canada with $64 US in my pocket, my friend. That was 1994. When you came to Canada, did you come with $1 million, or you had to go start some jobs that you had to go pass by?
No, no, I started with nothing.
I just throw that in there as a joke, but for most of us, it's been a tough journey just to get to come. But maybe you had a little bit easier way,
Yeah, no,
but you didn't come.
I
You had
definitely
to
had
build
help with
yourself.
that. I definitely had help with that. My immigration journey is a little bit. Let's just say that Immigration Canada didn't like it too much because what happened is when my daughter, my first child, was born uh, earlier in 2008, my father-in-law was a doctor here in Winkler, and he wanted to meet her obviously because it's his first grandchild. And then, but he didn't have any more time, so he said, "Oh, we should come visit them." So we came here, and when I was single, I didn't really think about the bad things going on in Canada. In South Africa, the crime was insane, and they weren't. We have like 40% unemployment or 40 plus. I don't know what it is now even. Um, and then when I got married, then I started worrying about that because then I was like, is my wife going to be safe here? What's our future here like? And then when Kaylin was born, when my daughter was born, then they were like rioting at the universities and stuff, and that's always been your hedge in South Africa, and I would guess other less developed countries, and education is a hedge, because then you're kind of ahead of the pack because you're earning more money and you can stay in a safe neighborhood. But then I was like, well, I mean, if the universities are not safe, then how are my children going to get an education one day? So then when we came to visit my father-in-law here in Canada, then I remember my ex said to me, "Oh, we should go for a walk," and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and in South Africa, 9 o'clock anywhere it's dark already. So then I was like, "Oh, that doesn't seem like a good idea." But then I looked outside and it was still light because it was in the summer, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So they went outside, and there were no guard dogs, there were no barbed wire fences.
Just
My
walk
in-laws didn't have
across.
an alarm system. Um, there were little kids driving around, like 6-year olds driving around on the bicycles outside. None of which you would see in South Africa.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks after that, I said to my ex, "No, we're not going back," because it's like you get used to something because you grow up in a certain environment, or you get gradually, you know, uh, desensitized against it, and then
Yes.
you end up somewhere else and you realize that that's not actually how life has to be. Like you can live somewhere where you don't have to lock your doors, or where it's safe for your kids to play outside, or you don't check all your windows and doors before you go to bed so that someone can't break in. um, yeah, and then I found out about the provincial nominee program, and they were happy to help me because they thought I was going to be a lawyer at the time. So I got in on the um, skilled worker program, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Am
and,
I
and
uh,
okay.
am I correct to assume that Anton is a very proactive person? You don't wait. You like to take action if it feels right.
That is a new thing. I did not used to be like that.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yes.
so well, I was surprised at your speed, and but also I'm surprised that now that you tell me your journey of how you came to Canada and how you decided, okay, well, we're staying here, and I'm doing this because this environment is much better than where I experienced. Where the worst thing the least worst thing is 40% unemployment,
Yeah.
and now I'm in Canada and I can establish myself, build a family here,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To summarize what you've just told me, so that's some bold steps you've taken along the journey, my friend.
Hmm.
So you didn't come here with $1 million, but let's talk about personal development. When did you learn about this thing called personal development?
Uh, I've always kind of been interested in it. I would say at least from when I was about 27. Uh, Before that, I wasn't. I was a little bit uh, not motivated or anything. But I found out about personal development at an early age. Um, Probably strangely enough, finances. Robert
Mm-hmm.
Kiyosaki, Og Mandino is probably the first
Yes.
real. I
Richest
mean, some
man
people
in
think he
Babylon.
just writes stories, but his stories are pretty deep. Um, so that probably got me started, and then yeah, from then I've done a lot of courses and stuff, especially through um, World Financial Group. Strangely enough,
Mm-hmm.
but also like just a lot of personal reading and doing courses and stuff.
Absolutely. Wow, that's so amazing because if we don't get, especially in, I was introduced also through the financial services, but I've always been a seeker just like yourself. I always like to read like behavioral stuff, behavioral interviewing, behavioral. Why do people behave the way they do is the biggest question on my mind.
And that was
And
like I had a like a big how to say aha moment. Um,
uh-huh.
when, uh, I was dating a girl a couple of years back, and she was busy doing a course in hypnotherapy and NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and and then she asked me if I wanted to do it too, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. She was driving up to Winnipeg every weekend to do this
Mm-hmm.
course, and so yeah, I just thought, it'd be a cool thing to do, you know, together, and that was such an eye opener for me because I'm not a naturally how to say I don't naturally understand people. Like up to then, people were very much a mystery for me. I didn't understand why they did things, and so for the most part, I just avoided people because I didn't understand how they worked. And that's part of my makeup is understanding how things work. But people were just too complicated. But then when I did this course in you NLP and hypnotherapy, now all of a sudden I understood. The my biggest issue was I was trying to figure people out based on myself. But then in
Mm.
neuro linguistic programming, you find out that people could
Wow.
have a completely different just frame of reference to how they experience life. Most people are visual, and then you get people who are kinesthetic, and then I was like completely different. I was like what was it? Yeah, I don't remember the term for it, but in any case, yeah. And so then all of a sudden I had this moment where I was like, it's not that people are just so hard to understand. It's just I just have to realize that they don't think the same way I do in a
Then
much more fundamental way than I thought possible before.
my conclusion was that life doesn't come with an instruction, so I decided to do something a little bit different, maybe create something that gives us some direction, because if I was going to make anything with my life in a new country and I have to compete with 40 million Canadians, I have to do it pretty quickly. Because where we come probably from a background, at least, you said 45% unemployment in South Africa. Maybe where I come is no better, but we still had enough to be called upper middle class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
that was similar. My dad was a lawyer, and my mom did a work like as a secretary, and oh, that was actually my first exposure to how do you say entrepreneurship. She was she worked for Tupperware like her whole life.
uh-huh.
Um,
Huh.
yeah, she was the area manager, so she did pretty well. Yeah, so we were definitely firmly middle class. So I never, um, oh yeah, I never wanted for anything. So I
Right.
can't say that I probably the time I was closest to poor was when I was studying to become a goldsmith, and I was literally that poor student who was barely paying rent. But yeah,
Absolutely.
but never destitute or on the street or anything like that.
That is really important because there's one thing that takes a little bit of longer fix, which is, the heredity. We come from two sources as per, all of the research in this book and all of the people we've talked to, read, gone, seen. But one is our DNA hereditary, and the other one's environment. And the first environment we talk about in this program is family. If your father was a higher achiever, of course you want to do at least like papa, because his time was different than our time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
My
I
dad
was
never had an experience like in Canada, or never learned the things that I did, like English language, like to be able to speak other. He had his own issues.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we had I had a very relevant conversation to this with someone just the other day. Um, I was explaining to them that I was disappointed that I never finished my university degree because um, my family, I had four uncles and they all had daughters and stuff, and everyone went to university. Um, so when I got to Canada, I always thought of Canada as like, oh, prosperous, and everyone was like, well off and so on. And then I kind of end up in a little rural area, and that's not really that common at all. Like a lot of people here just don't have
No,
tertiary education. And then I realized that how my the family I grew up in shaped my standards,
absolutely.
because we never
Again,
the conversation was never, oh, are you going to university? And it would be weird if you did. In my family it was, what were you going to study?
yes, that's exactly the conversation again I've been having with my own daughter since she was maybe 15. Finally, she jumped. Now she's in her fourth year in psychology. I'm very
Mhm.
proud of her, but the conversation in family setting is really important, shaping our character, our destiny, and a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, and because and that's like one of the self-help books I read. um, he said, being wealthy is hard, but being poor is hard too. Just pick your heart.
Again, as I was mentioning to you, you're far more developed than most people that have this conversation. We were talking about personal development and just automatically led into social and family, and then that's really the end of the circle. But it's that introduces you to spirituality too. I mean, the religion, the belief you have right now was introduced first through family, I guess.
Hmm.
Mine was. I
Yeah.
don't know in your case, but we're all
So,
human beings.
I grew up very conservative Christian. Like
Mm.
our church was the Dutch Reformed Church, near the Duits Gereformeerd.
Hmm.
So very, very conservative. But because I was a very questioning child, I
Yes,
didn't want to.
curious.
Yes, I didn't do well in that environment because it was very you just listen to what the pastor says and you don't ask questions, which seemed really odd to me at the time. And so then I had kind of bad experiences with Christianity in general. Just the dichotomy and how people acted in public and how they acted at church, um,
Yes.
and that it was to a large degree okay, that it was accepted. That never it didn't seem like that's how religion was supposed to be. To me, it was like it should be your religion should reflect in your actions. Like someone should be able to look
Oh
at you and say,
wow.
"Oh, this person
That's
is a Christian because you are doing things that Christians would do," instead of saying. I distinctly remember having a conversation with one of our the deacons in our church. So they would be like not pastors, but like senior
mm-hmm.
members. And he'd sold a property to my stepbrother at the time, and this business was a complete dud and completely overpriced, even for what it was. And I asked him, like, did you know that this business was not worth what you sold to my brother? And he said, yeah, he was aware. And I'm like, but then how do you, you know, how do you equate that action with the fact that you're a deacon in the church? And he says, no, it's nothing personal. It's just business.
That's a
Wow.
very interesting.
Yeah. And so
That's
then
a very interesting conversation.
I had a very uh, long journey, looking at other religions. And I still ask people, what they're in. And so probably I would consider myself still marginally Christian, but definitely uh, not a uh, not someone who just doesn't ask questions.
You actually you have a very different approach, which is between you and whatever you believe.
Yeah.
It shouldn't reflect anything on the outside world. And the search engine is there to find your own religion, really, to even feel who whatever you want to feel, because religion is, you said this and it was very profound. Your religion should be showcased in your behavior.
Yeah.
Your
Uh,
religion should be portrayed in your behavior, in your interactions.
so one thing that had a big impact on me, on my view of religion in general, is there was this story about these three blind men, and they're all standing next to an elephant, and the one is standing at the front, and he touches the elephant's trunk, and he says to the other two guys, he says, "Huh, this creature, this elephant thing, it's almost like a snake. It's like long and twisty, and it moves around." And then the other guy is standing a little bit further down, and he reaches out, and he's like, he touches the leg, and he's like, "No, no, you're wrong. It's more like a tree trunk, because it's like this round object." And then the last guy was standing right at the back of the elephant, and he reaches out and he touches the tail, and he says, "Oh no, man, what are you guys talking about? It's like just this little thing. It's almost like a little paintbrush thing." And so the analogy is that that those are the world's religions. Um, that God is the elephant, and they're all uh, convinced that their perception of God is what God is, but it's actually just a very small um, part of what God is as a whole.
In your journeys, I'm sure you've come across the goal setting path. Again, the introduction through personal development, through financial services. And we know this book started out with a bunch of notes, just like the one that you have in your hand for the first week. So the letter to self, which we're going through your notes now, that was just my questionnaire notes, and you will get all of this. Was to teach about smart goals that we're going to talk about, brainstorming for goals, but you're far more advanced than any of this. So what we do is the notes that you received, a letter to yourself. Let's say it's 2030. If you were living, or if you're doing anything, considering your life right now, where would you like to be? Are you happy where you are? Is life ideal right now? I know you're just a like a typical Canadian hardworking vision of the future for yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Uh, in 5 years, I want 100 doors so that I can have enough income from my real estate that I don't have to do anything else. Not because I don't want to do anything else. It just so then um, I want to do things that I'm constrained from doing by having to work.
Amazing. That's again your real estate journey is right now you're just venturing into that field, or maybe getting really serious about it. The better you get at it, the more profitable become. So
Yeah.
many of my friends are real estate agents or in real estate. They always told me, man, you should be in real estate. You're going in sales. You do this, that. It just, I never got started on that journey, but I have some really good friends who are amazing in real estate. And now, at the end of all of this, we're opening up or talking about Camel care factory, theme parks in Middle East and in America. Now it's going back to real estate. So if I had one thing to do, I would get my license 20 years ago. If there was one regret that personally I would talk about.
Yeah, probably
But
going
you're on
back.
the right track.
Yeah.
So let me open up this note and we're going through your first. You of course read this. I if you don't if
Oh,
you
I
haven't
must
read
not.
it, please do remember this philosophy. This is a formula if you get stressed. If you ever get stressed. I mean, I get sometimes stressed, we get overwhelmed. So it's to practice gratitude every day, which you're a humble man, you're a very hardworking man. I can see you're a focused man, you have a beautiful family. We're gonna grow from here to wherever we can together because I don't want to invest in temporary relationships. You ever been in temporary? It's like almost a marriage that's going nowhere. Business relationships are like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's true.
that is why we take 90 days to get to know each other because when I was a child, when I was 10, 12, on those mountains in east of Iran, Iraq, Turkey, there was war. And I was thinking, wow, this world is so big. You just even you look at the globe. When am I even going from here to that city over there where people are having a lot of fun? But as you grow older, you see that it's just so small. You can make connections all over the world. And even if
Yeah.
you're in real estate might say, oh, it doesn't apply, you see 3 years from now, 5 years from now, somebody from another part of the world moves exactly to that real estate location where you're in charge or you need to sell them. It's just synchronicity.
Hmm.
So really really important to have your journey prepared for wealth, for profits, fulfillment, directions. Over the next few weeks we're going to talk about all of these things, but we will start with that gratitude journal that I talk about here. This is a philosophy that was taught to me by my mentor. So that's why I asked some personal questions, a little bit about family upbringing. And when he found out, he says, you need your own philosophy to wake up every day with gratitude, to set your intention, love what you do, act on your dreams, network with great minded people, which we are here, and believe that everybody is a miracle worker. So I believe in people. That's my default mode. I believe sometimes too much in people. Sometimes when I was in Primerica, I said, man, I'm going to make this person successful even if it kills me. Well, let me tell you, I almost died. And I started to realize that success is not for everybody.
No, no, no.
It's What's your take on success so far? You've gone through your lawyer journey in South Africa. You've come here and you experienced some comfort in your life. You've seen successful people and you've seen failure people. What's your take on success? What's success for Anton? How do you achieve it?
I don't think it's an end goal. Like if I like my current big focus is like I mentioned, especially like within 5 years, I would like to be at 100 doors for real estate. So my focus is on small, so single family or duplexes or quadplexes are about the biggest I'd go. Um, and part of why my focus remains there is like now when I was looking at properties in Winnipeg, I was just kind of appalled at the situations that people live in. Because a lot of the properties I looked at was kind of in the less nice parts of town,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and I've never been in that situation. I like where I was a student it was kind of not a great area, but it was still okay. Um, but now, getting going into this real estate journey, my my foot the 100 doors is just my first step. Once I do that, I want to um, go into building properties because I think that everyone should be everyone should have dignity in where they live. Um,
Yes.
People shouldn't be living in houses that are falling apart or have mold or any of that kind of situation. Even the poorest person renting a property should be okay with living there. It shouldn't be somewhere they're living just because that's all. So yeah,
That's
so,
the
so I
way
don't.
of the future right now. Even big companies. Oh, Anton has been disconnected, or is here?
No, I'm still here. I can hear you.
No, you. Oh, you're still here. Okay, wonderful. Well, I had you black out for a moment, but
Okay.
I'm back here, and we are going to. That's how a conversation really flows. Those of you who are watching through video, again, as Anton reconnects, that's how a conversation flows. Exactly 45 minutes. We've had back and forth conversation, and we all have the need for speaking as much as we have the need for listening. So I'm here to listen to your story, help you tell your story, and I just enjoyed Anton's story. I don't know if he's back or not. Oh, you're here. Okay. Wonderful. Again, I believe Anton is having a challenge with his connection, but we continue this journey. That was just part one of this really interactive, and he's gonna read out next week his letter from himself to me, now written in 2030. He will be writing that letter in thinking it's 2030 and what he's doing with this program and how he's evolved his real estate business and all of the ventures that Anton has told us about. So are you still here? You
Yeah, yeah. I
connected?
think it's just cutting out the camera. Possibly there's not enough bandwidth. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so this is what we can do. Again, as I was just going on camera, since your camera is heading out, I will ask you to write me a letter, please, as it's in your first week's note for next week. And tomorrow we have Robert Amodi Bob. Great, he's in real estate. You're just gonna love to learn from this guy. Make sure it's going to be a little bit early for you. You're in Winnipeg, and I was in Winnipeg 2018. I sold 250 camel jackets. At that
Oh,
time, we
nice.
had jackets. But we will talk to you as soon as we finish tomorrow with Robert. And if you have any questions you want to ask about personal development, about expanding your mindset, this is really it. I thank you so much for this week.
Okay. Thank you, Arif.
And we will be meeting tomorrow, but other than that, the same time next week.
Yes, 6 o'clock.
I will wish you a very pleasant Friday, my friend. I was inspired to hear your story. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Thanks, Arif. Nice to meet you too. Bye bye.